Welcome back to the Arkopia show. Today I'm going to talk about just do it. Okay? Get off your butt and do it. If you're waiting around for some perfect scenario, some perfect conditions, it's never going to happen. Perfect doesn't exist. You have to just do it. If you're thinking about looking for the perfect land, it needs this, and it needs this, and it needs this. You're never going to find it. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as perfect land. You're waiting and waiting and wasting time. And meanwhile, you just do it and put one foot in front of the other and do something. And it won't be perfect, but if you just do it, if you make a mistake, you know the mistake you made. You can adjust that mistake you made, but you have to just do it. So I formally considered myself a perfectionist, or a ideologue, like try to work it out in your brain to make it perfect so you don't make a mistake and things. And I learned to beat that out of me, that trait, because perfection is paralysis. If you're sitting around waiting for something to be perfect, or you think you figured out every angle, or you think you're going to make a mistake so you don't bother doing it at all, that's terrible. You have to beat that trait out of you. Now, it's great to get things as right as you possibly can, but you have to just do it. And I'm to the point where, I looked for, like way back when, I looked for land. Nothing was perfect. I wanted the exact distance away from the city. I wanted this, I wanted that on the property, and I wanted, the road on the south side instead of the north side, and blah, blah, blah. And just a piece of land fell in my lap. You know what? It's a good price. It's almost, what I need. I can make it work, so just do it. And then you get the darn thing, and then you can adjust your stuff from there. There's, from what I learned from building up a homestead from nothing, is like I learned things doing it that I didn't know before. Like I thought I was doing something perfect to begin with, but what I learned I never would have known unless I did these things and made, you don't call them mistakes, but it's not perfect, right? To the point where I thought, geez, maybe I'm young enough, there's enough time. What if I sell my place and do my ultimate all-in-one, like, preparedness building? And then you get to thinking, well, if I do that, I think I have it worked out in my brain. And then as I'm doing it, you have to make changes, because nothing's ever going to work out, and there's no such thing as being perfect. So you just have to do it. And that's allowed me to advance quicker and faster. And I am very much not afraid to make mistakes and take risks. And if I make a mistake doing something, and, other people's opinions, I learn to also, it's just a good trait that I have, if somebody calls me out on a mistake or something, I say, geez, thank you, I didn't think about that, and maybe I'll even change it. But, a lot of times when I'm getting information from somebody else, it would be somebody else that hasn't done it, and still hasn't done it, but has thought about it, and they say, Dean, you're doing it wrong. Yeah, well, I'm doing it, right? Are you doing it? It depends who's it coming from. So, if there's criticisms, or I will take all this information. People would get pissed off at me in my life over the years when I'd ask them for advice, because there's a problem and I don't fully understand. So I'll ask, 4 or 10 or 20 different people's advice, whether it's family or friends or something. And, well, if I was doing that, I would do it this way. And if you ask somebody else, if I was doing that, I would do it this way. And both people, or whatever, everybody be pissed off at me because I do it different than what they told me, because I took 10 different ideas or whatever, and I made it into my own that I thought was the right way with the information that they gave me, and then everybody be pissed off that I didn't listen to them. And you have to understand, I tried to do my best and get it right, but I still can't be sitting in paralysis. I have to do it. So, like, just super recently, I did a massive water storage thing in the greenhouse, and I've already adjusted it because I'm doing something else, and that something else I'm doing kind of interferes with the first thing that I did. So to the point where, you know what, I think it's worth me taking a day and redoing this thing, because this next thing that I forgot is going to work so much better if I do this adjustment. And does it suck I have to do it twice? Well, I have to do a lot of things twice, or but I'm doing it, right? I have something done that works, but it's not there's no such thing as perfect, but I have it and it works. But if I found a way to make it better, is it worth me altering it or spending more time on that thing that currently works, but it could be better? And then I have to make a decision, and then I make it better. And then, there's something I could have changed, I'm sure, after I redo it. Or if I sold my homestead and redid a complete other one, I'd still maybe not be satisfied. Like, you have to beat that perfectionism out of you, or you're going to sit in paralysis. If you're in the city and you've been thinking about buying land for many, many years, but you have these requirements and they don't come up, well, guess what? The person that bought a piece of land that you thought wasn't ideal, they probably have buildings built and they're out there and they're doing it, and they have something, and they're 10,000 miles ahead of you that are sitting in paralysis waiting to be perfectionist. And that's from big things like purchasing land, big things like building a big building, and then little projects as well. But you just have to do it, make mistakes, even do it twice, even do it 3 times, and you're still way ahead of the other person that could be critical of you doing things and that just isn't doing anything, right? So this is just life. Life is about experimenting, learning hands-on, making mistakes. Like, for every success, I forget what's the ratio for how many businesses fail. It's like 9 out of 10 businesses fail or something. Like, I've had many failed things, and I wouldn't be the person I am without all these failures, and I wouldn't know what I know with all these mistakes. And that's why I am who I am. And I'm not perfect by any means, or not talking up to myself. I'm just saying, like, if you dated the wrong girl, it's like, oh my God, how could I have ever dated a girl like that? Well, that breakup and that experience changed your perspective on things and changed the course of your entire life, that gave you the hindsight to know that why would I have dated a girl like that, and you got to learn things like that helped you pick a better partner in the future. Like, that's there's another little tangent, trying to shelter your kids, from mistakes you made. If you shelter them too much and don't allow them to make mistakes and try to make them be a perfectionist, they're going to miss out on these first-hand experiences that they need in order for you to mold and help, your child or whatever be a fulfilled, smart, intelligent, hardworking human. But if you shelter them from everything and think that they're going to be a perfectionist, and they have to be, and they miss out on some of these mistakes, they're going to end up being a wussy, right? But you literally just have to do it. Stop procrastinating. Stop putting aside the project. Do it. And if you do it, you're miles and miles ahead. Another concept is, saying is ask for forgiveness instead of permission. It's much easier. I actually go for, you don't even ask for forgiveness, you just do it. You don't ask for permission or forgiveness, you just do it. Right? And by just doing it, you're just miles, eons, light years, generations ahead by doing that. So, from a, macro and worldly and economic time point, it's getting pretty late in the game here with everything seems to be speeding up in the world. So you have less and less and less time, which means you have to definitely stop procrastinating, definitely not, worry about getting it perfect, and just do it, right? And what am I doing? I got solar panels and I'm trying to figure out what's the right racking or whatever, and just, okay, this one looks good, approved, whatever, just do it. Just do it. So I got the solar panels. I recognized it as good value, a good deal. You get the solar panels, then you get the racking. You figure out the other equipment, inverters, charge controllers, battery setup. I kind of have an idea of how I'm doing it, but I'm just moving ahead with it, right? Just move ahead, and it's probably not right or not 100% right. And if I do a video on that in the future, hopefully somebody, and I appreciate it, will criticize me or that's not right, you should have done this, blah, 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 because that gives me more information. And I'm not embarrassed. It doesn't bother me. I appreciate that input from others, whether it's good input or bad input, but it triggers something in my brain that allows me to think of something from another perspective or have another idea. And then that helps me, work towards perfecting something. But, and it is what it is. So, imagine if, building my greenhouse thing took a long time. So, I thought, well, you know what? Let's just wait until it's completely done before I do a YouTube video on it or something. And I thought, well, what is completely done? This greenhouse, I'm going to be playing around in it, experimenting, altering, slowly working towards as close as you can get to perfection over the next, my lifetime. So what do I do? Not share anything for the rest of my life till I have it perfect? It's no, I kind of worked in silence, didn't tell anybody what I'm doing. Nobody knows what I'm doing. Built this sucker from nothing till it's to a point where, look, it looks good. It's partially done. It works. My concept's working, but it still has gravel. There's not many plants in it. Have an aphid problem or whatever in one of my first videos, but no, just do it. Just do something and move forward. And mostly good things happen from doing that. It's pretty rare something bad will happen. A mistake isn't even bad. A mistake is just the first attempt at success. That's all it is. First, second, and third attempt at success, and maybe the fourth or fifth, you succeed, and you succeed big time, something really worked out. And these are life-altering, things, even the little things, even the little projects, right? You have to learn firsthand. A lot of the stuff, especially if, you're kind of like me, you're innovating, trying to get information from people that don't live in as harsh a climate, that have built these things, the greenhouse I'm talking, or done things like I've done. There's not a lot of information. There's a handful of people doing these deep winter greenhouses things to my level that I know about. And so I have to guess and check and innovate and try to like take information from somebody else's climate and apply it to mine and make adjustments on that. And I got it as as close to perfect as I could. There's some changes I would have made, like minor stuff, but guess what? I have a greenhouse and it's done, and I'm growing bananas and oranges in Saskatchewan, Canada. So would it have worked slightly better if I made like these tiny alterations? Yes, slightly, but mine still works. Nothing I did was a mistake. It just it works, but it could have been slightly closer to perfection. Yep. You know what I mean? It's if you're building a house or something and what is the exact percentage of glazing on the south for a passive solar house? What is the exact overhang? It's like for shading in the summer, it's if you were slightly 2 inches short on your calculations, put a bigger eaves trough on and you get an extra 2 inches or something if you want it perfect. But at least you have the house. Like the sun, if you're doing a passive solar building or you want to reduce your heating bill to almost nothing or nothing, and you're building something, first things first, in the northern hemisphere, the sun is to the south. It is that way. That's where you kind of face your stuff. And if you put more windows there, you're going to have more a gain type of thing. Like it works. A mistake would be pointing your house to the north with a wall of windows. Like that's a huge mistake. You can't like sell the house to somebody else and you have to start over. But you can make adjustments. Just do it, right? Yeah, it's kind of, if you did, I don't know, one form of heating system, but then you switch to another one or something, was it a mistake? Well, no, both work, but you think the second one is going to work better. But you spent all this money. Oh, it's wasted money. It's like, no, now you have a backup. Like, it depends on how you look at it too, right? Now I have 2 heating systems, so if one fails, I have a redundancy plan or a contingency plan. I have a second one. Like, perfect. I have multiple wood stoves I've purchased used, and one wasn't as efficient, and I ended up liking this other one, so I have that other stove stored. And maybe I went and picked it up or drove half an hour and picked it up for $50 or $100. It's like, was that a mistake or something? Well, no, I have a wood stove that I could sell for $200. I made money on it. And sure, I didn't use it. Sure, it wasn't exactly what I'm after. Was it a mistake? It's like, no, I learned that this particular thing doesn't work. Yes, I took the time. Yes, I put it in. Yes, I bought it. And I ended up switching. Well, I have an extra wood stove if one craps out. Or if I want to sell it and make money, then I can do that too. It's... And you have to make your changes on the fly as well. Like, you could think you have whatever it is you're doing, whatever little project or whatever, in your brain, you think you have it perfect. But on the fly, when you end up doing it, you see, like, something else will come in or something will, adjust, and you have to make an adjustment on the fly. But if you're a perfectionist and you procrastinate and don't start anything, like whether it's a business or a project or a purchase or whatever it is, you're a perfectionist that gives you that paralysis, then you never would know that a change had to be made because you didn't do it. So you might think you have it perfect in your brain, but you'll never have it perfect in your brain. You have to go do it. So, and again, at the tail end of this, I consider it a Ponzi scheme, this everything bubble, debt bubble, fake currency. Everything seems to be speeding up. There's less and less time. You have to procrastinate less and less. You know, get out of the city. That's a huge goal. Build something to live in. That's a huge goal. Like just do it. Then you're miles and miles and miles ahead of somebody sitting in their apartment thinking that they're going to save up for land. Like, what if, for instance, house prices in Canada have gone up and up and up in the major cities for generations. Like, real estate doesn't go down in Canada, right? But until maybe now. But what if you were saving up for a young person, saving up for a down payment? I remember I did an inflation video, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. And that month that I did it, it was like February or March, the average house price in Canada went up $25,000 last month, was the statistic that came out. So imagine being a young person procrastinating on getting into the real estate market, and you're trying to save up a down payment, but then in 1 month, Canadian real estate on average went up $25,000 per house in 1 month. Meanwhile, you're trying to like scrape together, maybe put $1,000 a month aside because you really want to put a down payment on a house. Well, procrastination is terrible. So at the same time, use your brain. If everybody says, oh, house prices only go up, they've only gone up for the last 30 years. They never, ever, ever go down. There's no such thing as depressions and recessions anymore. Be very wary and use your brain and really look at it, because, sometimes not like the house might go down $50,000 on average in a month, and you might be happy that you procrastinated, right? So use your brain, but don't procrastinate. Don't be a perfectionist. Just do it, get it done, move on. There's other times maybe you're trying to sell your house or something, and you're like, no, it's worth this, but somebody offers you, less than what you want for it, right? And you say, no, I'm going to hold out for another buyer. And then your house sits on the market for another 6 months, or maybe a year or 18 months. And you're like, oh, darn it, I should have took that first offer. I could have been on my way. And it's like, yes, you probably should have. You should have taken that first offer. You should, okay, you're offering this seems a little low. Could you come up a little higher? Maybe meet me a little bit closer, and then you can have it. And okay, let's do the deal. Okay, boom, paid, house is yours. Thank you. You have cash. You deploy that cash on whatever your out of town, land or house or whatever you're doing with that capital, as opposed to holding out for a little bit more or something and wasting like a good chunk of your life sitting on that darn thing. You can't be a perfectionist wanting exactly what the price is, right? And nothing, it doesn't matter what it is, ever works out the way we have it in our head, ever. So if you don't like getting disappointed, like life's going to be hard for you. Life is mostly disappointment. Actually, life is mostly suffering, to be honest. And, you appreciate the good moments that you can get, but honestly, it's mostly disappointments and suffering, and nothing ever works out the way that exactly what we thought. But at least every day, just do it. Just do something. Do it. And if you make a mistake, who gives a shit? It's probably a mistake that you made that enlightened yourself, like past where if somebody isn't actually doing that and didn't make the mistake that you made, that they have no idea that mistake's even out there to make, right? But you are miles ahead of them. Just knowing that. Another quick just example on the greenhouse, those 45-gallon black drums, if you've watched my greenhouse stuff, but these water-filled thermal mass barrels, at the back of the greenhouse. This from like the day I broke ground or years before I broke ground was in my head to get the sun angle in the coldest part of the winter to hit the back of the greenhouse where I'd have these water barrel thermal mass things. Well, now I started building these fish tank things, and I'm like, well, where do I put these fish tank things? If I put them anywhere in front of these black barrels, it renders those black barrels useless for the sun hitting them because there's a fish tank in the way. So actually what I'm thinking is, like, again, from years before I started the greenhouse, as I built this thing in my head and know the concepts, I'm thinking about possibly taking those barrels out. I'll test it and take recordings and stuff this winter, but I'm thinking about taking those out, because anything I do in front of those barrels is shading those barrels. But I like these fish tanks, so if I did more fish tanks and then painted fish tanks black, would prevent the algae in the winter when the sun hits it. But then if I painted them black, the water should be warmer, so then I can probably do the tilapia fish instead of the cold water trout. So those fish tanks would be, instead of useless stagnant barrels that do nothing, I could gain that floor space, not shade it with fish tanks, and use the fish tank as the thermal mass and change the species of fish that I'm doing. And, if I didn't, there's no way. My brain usually covers every single thing, but then there'll be a hands-on, I'm looking at it, seeing how this works. So was it a mistake? Those black barrels at the back of the greenhouse, it works. Like the concept works. And the way I did it, sitting there, it works. But if I do an alteration, it's going to work better, give me slightly more floor space, be a more efficient run of fish tanks and aquaponics setup than having to jog it around these other tanks that I have. And it's, I think it's worth my time to make that adjustment at some point. But anyways, was it a mistake? No. It works the way it is. Can I make it better? Of course, I can make anything better. Is it worth my time? It'd just be like a day or something to make this adjustment. I think it probably is. So I'm going to probably, take a day and do that adjustment. And if I didn't set all this up and visually see it and be walking around it and then decide to do the fish tanks and the other things, it never would have clicked in my brain until I did this, quote unquote mistake, but that isn't really a mistake, right? So, and to figure it all out, you just have to do it. So, yeah, those people that are perfectionists, that have this paralysis, that don't want to, have anybody be able to even call them out on doing anything. Like the person that does nothing, right, thinks that nobody can call them out, or they can't be embarrassed from doing something or doing something wrong or not knowing something. Like, I never understood this. When I remember in school, it's funny that I'd be being taught something and it still didn't click in with me. So I'd ask, teacher or whoever it is, I don't fully concept this. Can you just explain it again? And I remember like the dumb kids with the low marks would be, what do you mean you don't understand it? Do you know? Like, well, you don't understand it either, right? You're like, I know that you don't, but I'm not afraid to ask, right? I'm not afraid to be embarrassed. I'm not afraid of somebody picking apart something that I'm doing, because I don't, I'm to a point where I don't give a crap. I don't care about other people's opinions, right? And the things that I do aren't to show off to somebody else. The things that I do are for me, and for me to do it and do it the best that I can, for myself and family. And I don't care about that. But if there's somebody like picking away something that I'm doing, like I'm to the point it doesn't bother me. I actually appreciate that. Like it goes, like for some reason I just operate with logic and reason and, introvertedness. Like I'm fine without a YouTube channel. I'm fine with nobody ever knowing my name. Still I catch myself, I don't like being on camera. It's just, but I don't know. But you appreciate getting called out. If you don't understand something, ask twice till you understand it. Because what's the sense of pretending that you understand something? That's harmful for yourself, right? But anyways, these people that are perfectionists and have paralysis and are sitting around thinking, well, if I don't do anything, then nobody can judge me. And if I don't do anything, then I don't have any work to do or maintenance to do. And if I don't have anything, then I don't have anything to maintain or whatever. Well, I look at somebody sitting around doing nothing, and I like the judgment coming from me is pretty profound. So I hope that you know that too. If you're sitting around doing nothing, you have a bad judgment from someone like me versus somebody doing something and making mistakes on the way. I look at that person in a hugely higher, perspective than the person doing nothing. But the person doing something and making mistakes is actually going to survive things, life. The person sitting around stagnant doing nothing is not going to survive, is not going to thrive, is not going to make it. Doesn't matter if we're talking about really hard times ahead or just life in general. But if you have the paralysis, you are not the type of person that's going to survive and thrive or do anything of any substance in your life. The kinks that I've worked out, just firewood processing, a seemingly simple task. I'm going to probably do a video about this at some point. But, I got different types of containers, and I had a different log splitter, and I didn't like it. And I made a Yukon jig for holding firewood, and it didn't work out very good. I made another jig for being able to chainsaw up these smaller pieces. And, if I didn't make that second jig that, this is darn near perfect, but I should have done this one thing. So the third one that I made, this jig, I've been using it for 8 years, and it's just perfect. It's just, I thought of everything after I made like 2 sets of mistakes, and I have this thing, and it's perfect. The crates that I have for firewood, I don't have to handle it as much. It's all about handling the material as few times as possible to be very efficient with whatever you're doing. The log splitter I got, it works, and it works with the crate. And this other simple piece of equipment that I have, and this other jig that I have, and this stand that I made to stack my kindling and things, it's all very efficient. So what it did is it turned in me working on firewood for weeks and weeks and weeks to a couple days, right? Very, very efficient. But again, I wouldn't have got there if I didn't make every single mistake. You just do it, right? And now I am, 100 miles further ahead than somebody, sitting at home, drawing a picture of what they think might be a good firewood setup. But then when they get hands-on, they realize, no, this should be set up here because this is a next extra step of handling it or whatever. So just doing it, you're miles and miles ahead. So whatever it is, if you're thinking about approaching somebody that you want to be your life partner or something, but you're just scared or something, just do it. Time is wasting. If you're thinking about purchasing land, but nothing's quite perfect, just don't just go out and buy the next piece of property you see, but something that's good price, within reason. It's missing this, but I can make do with that, and then just do it and get it and do it. If you're thinking about building something, I'm not 100% on my floor plan. I'm not this or not that. Just, get it, blueprint, draw it up, figure it out, It's going to be, there's no such thing as perfect. Just build it and get out there. If you're thinking of doing a solar system, it literally doesn't, do as much research as you can. Don't dwell on it for, 7 years before you get into it. Just do it, right? Like if you're trying to save a dollar on the racking or $2 on the solar panels, or trying to find used wiring, the amount of time wasted and stuff where you weren't, supplementing your energy bill, you're losing money or whatever. Just do it. Get it set up. It's when we did our well, I wanted a good well, so I paid $1,000 a test hole, $1,000 a test hole, $1,000 a test hole. Still no water. Next one, oh boom, there it is, aquifer, right? Just do it, and now I have like a really good well. Just do it, right? Yeah, just get it done. Like if you build a shop and you blow in R40 insulation, because that's all you can afford or something, then just do it. You got R40 up there. Maybe there's a deal in the future, or maybe you have more resources, then you can double up the insulation in your attic. Like just do it. Like my shop wasn't even supposed to be finished. This was just going to be a storage shed shell, and I was going to do heated smaller shop somewhere else. Things didn't work out. House took too long to sell in the city for way less. Blah, blah, blah. So I ended up finishing this shop, and this is my main shop. There's 10 million things I would have done differently, but I am miles and miles and miles further ahead. My shop is much, much, much more efficient than many other shops. It's just I did it. Now I have it. It's done. I've done a million different other things since then. I'm not sitting in procrastination trying to figure out this perfect building, right? I'm just do it, adjust on the fly, do it as you go. As you take in more information, as you see it, just do it. So hopefully that's some advice somebody needed to hear that's procrastinating, sitting around waiting for the ultimate whatever it is. And do not be afraid to make mistakes. Just do it. Okay, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys next time.